Welcome to another week of Brew Skies Booze News, where we give you a breakdown of what happened in the alcoholic beverage industry last week. Either the most important things or the ones that interest us most, interspersed with a lot of random bullshit. My name is Mike Morgan.
And I'm Brett Coleman Baker. Cheers. All right, as always, like, comment, subscribe, share if you can. That's what supports us best, so we can keep doing this and keep bringing you the news and our opinions attached to them. Whether you find value in that or not, well, we'll tell by your comments and all that bullshit.
These beers aren't free.
That's true.
They're
you can buy us a beer over on Patreon. $5 a month. That's the only tier we got. It's the price of a cheap beer at a bar anymore. So if you want to buy us a beer, well, half a beer, I guess, we'll split it. Hop on over to the Patreon and check out our YouTube channel where we got plenty of other content. We do a whole oral history of craft beer. At this point in time, you've heard the drill 1,000 times if you've been following the news every week. Let's get into it. The question of the day, which we'll answer at the end of the episode, and we want to hear what your answer is as well, is what is your go-to drunk food? I know I got one already lined up that I'm thinking about now that I'm mad I'm not going to be able to have this weekend, but we'll get into that later. Now, let's get into this. We're going to just jump right into the meat and potatoes of it today. I don't have any short appetizer stories like we usually lead off with. We're going to just have a whole bunch of crap coming your way. So,
Great.
Constellation, the makers of Corona, they're saying that people are buying less beer more often.
What?
So they're going
It's
to
like the what gets wetter and wetter the more it dries. What does that mean?
It means that instead of buying a 30-pack of Corona when they're going to the store, they're buying a 6-pack, but they're going to the store 3 times a week rather than once.
Oh, okay.
So that you're buying the same amount of beer, you're just buying less of it at any given time. So you have to
because
go
the
more.
price shock makes you buy, doesn't make you commit to a case. It's harder to
Exactly.
buy a case at once.
Yes, but you're still going to end up drinking the same amount because
Yeah.
you drink the same amount.
Because you tell yourself when you drink that first 6-pack, rather than drinking a case this week, I'm only going to have a 6-pack.
Yes.
And then you just go back 3 more times.
Yes,
Yeah.
you keep going back to the well.
Sure.
Their
Lie to yourselves. Just keep lying to yourselves.
market research is also showing that 57% of consumers have reported to downgrading. Now, this is not just alcohol, but with their daily grocery and
Also, like
spend.
with who they date.
Well, that too. Good news for...
Me.
So they're either downgrading the cereal they're buying, or maybe the snacks, or the ice cream, or maybe they're just buying less fresh food and getting canned food, or they're downgrading their beer. But 57% of people are reporting downgrading. So chances are it's probably closer to 2/3 are actually making those decisions. I know I'm downgrading at the store.
I am. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not
yes.
every purchase.
No.
I might buy a 6-pack of craft beer rather than a 12-pack, and then a 6-pack of something cheap on a weekly basis now.
There's some things I can't roll back. There's some things where quality, I'm just not going to live without it at this point in my life. But there's a lot of other areas and there's a lot of things like just patterns of behavior. I mean, eating out, I've always done it way, way, way too much. And still do, but it's less than it used to be.
Yeah.
And I'm going to cheaper places, and
Oh yeah, that's when the only time I eat out during the week is we do lunch, Brew Skies lunch on Fridays.
Right.
And the main discussion for the past 6 months has been what's the cheapest place we can go to.
Right.
It's not about can we get good quality or good beer here. It used to be that.
Right.
Where can we get best beer?
Yeah.
Now it's what's the cheapest.
Yeah.
Can I get in and out for less than $20?
Right.
And have a beer.
Right.
So we're not the only ones doing that. I'm sure you guys are doing that. And you know who else is seeing this is Darden Group. Now, if you're not familiar with Darden Group, they're the shitty corporate owners of Olive Garden and Applebee's and a lot of Burger Kings.
Hey, that's my neighborhood bar and grill.
Well, what they're noticing is that people are still drinking when they're going out to Applebee's to get their microwave steak, but they're not buying top shelf Jack Daniels anymore. They're trading down and getting bottom shelf Old Crow. I don't know. But basically people are trading down for their on-premise drinks, which we've actually seen the return of Applebee's Dollaritas. You can get a margarita for $1, which I wonder if that has anything to do with it. Plain.
Yes, I'm sure.
Does it have
I'm sure
tequila
there's
in it?
almost no tequila in it.
Yeah. Why not even have alcohol in it?
There's like a half a shot of well tequila.
They get the local neighborhood drunk to spit in it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. They're using that Sean Diddy Combs tequila.
There has been an update with that case, but we're not going to get into it this week. Diageo is basically down one round to Diddy, so we'll see how this continues. On-premise prices have risen 10% over the last 12 months. This is food and beverage.
Oh, those two stories aren't connected at all.
Yeah, right? What that means for you is the average price of beer in America on-premise 12 months ago was $4.50 a pint. It's now down to $5 a pint. So, or up to $5 a pint. So, a pretty significant increase.
Where the hell are you? I mean, I never thought I would see the day where I would get all geeked that a pint is only $5. But I don't know who the hell even has $5 pints anymore. The norm, most places, breweries, bars, if you're drinking a craft beer, $7 seems to have become the norm, which is why I've quit drinking good beer when I go out largely.
So I was looking at some competitors' menus in the city this week actually, and the second biggest brewery in Cincinnati, which you can figure that out pretty easily with some Googling. I was looking at their draft list menu. Every single beer, $7 across the board, whether it's the 4% lager, or the 8% IPA, $7.
Yeah.
Nothing's cheaper than that.
Yeah.
So part of the reason we're launching this new product line at Urban Artifact next year is we want to have it priced at $5 a pint, whether it's at our place, which it will be, or out in the market. So we're launching a new beer because of that very reason. I just can't go out and spend $8 and get 4 beers anymore.
No.
$32 on 4 beers is it's untenable.
No.
Even $5 seems like a lot, but in this day and age, it's a good deal. So interestingly enough, that 10% average increase that's across the U.S., the biggest price increases, could you guess where they are? What region of the U.S.?
Biggest price increases across the U.S., I would say, I don't know. I mean, I would think the Northeast.
Midwest. Specifically Ohio, Tennessee, states around us have seen the biggest increases, over 10%. California, lowest percent increases in the last 12 months. And it's probably because it's already priced to hell. So
yeah, that was actually the first thing that came to my mind was California, and that was my thought process, that California has probably already been so obscenely overpriced on everything that you can't push that much farther.
Yep.
I figured Northeast just because real estate prices are going to impact prices everywhere. I mean, if your rent keeps going up, then that's one of your fixed costs for restaurants and bars.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I guess actually, I don't know where it stands in the last year or so. Within the past 3 years, Cincinnati led the nation as the largest, fastest increase in real estate prices. So I guess I can see it.
Yeah.
You know, we were very we were a very affordable, livable city 5 years ago. And, you know, Cincinnati has been swept full force into overinflated real estate prices.
Yeah, it's people have recognized that we were actually still a good value and a good price to just live and be happy, and not much anymore.
But that means that a bunch of assholes from New York and California started buying up a bunch of Cincinnati real estate and jacking up the prices and fucking up our city.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, when you can work remote and sell your home for $2 million for some asinine reason, $300,000 looks like a good deal in Cincinnati.
Right.
Buy your house in cash.
Yeah.
Still have some money left over. Continuing on with these trends of bev alcohol, specifically beer, moving the wrong direction. It's actually wine too, which we're going to get into here. Gen Z. Some new surveys have come out. There's a lot more data that we're seeing as Gen Z continues to age into legal drinking age. They don't give a shit about alcohol traditions and what has been the standard for a long time.
They don't give a shit about tradition.
Yes. And very much so around drinking culture. Since the 60s, really, it's been kegers, it's been cheap light beer, and that's only accelerated through the 70s, 80s, and 90s. But Gen Z is finally turning that the other direction. The amount of people who don't drink at all or haven't drank in the last 6 months is over 50% with Gen Z. It's actually 54%, which is the highest it's ever been. It's the highest of any generation of drinking age in the U.S. currently. We're seeing a increase in willingness to try different types of products, specifically RTDs, spirits. And Gen Z is moving away from wine. They don't give a shit about wine. It is reported that 25% of wine buyers in general are stressed when they go to buy wine. But specifically for Gen Z, they don't like the fact that the jargon level, the barrier to entry is too high, and there's a lot of gatekeeping around wine. So Gen Z is just wholly off of wine. So to sum that up, Gen Z, not drinking much. When they do drink, they drink more in moderation than it's ever been seen. And Gen Z doesn't really care about brown spirits. They don't really care about wine, and they really don't care about light beer. This is a problem.
It's a problem for the industry.
Industry standards.
And, I'll say, first of all, I think it's a problem that started with millennials, this disrespect of tradition. This whole concept of rather than you learn these kind of traditional things and you age into them and you want to learn to taste and enjoy good bourbons and good scotch, was this shift to that's what old people do, fuck it, so I don't care. That's been going on, I think, for a while. I've noticed an interesting thing this semester in particular with my beer classes. I teach this stupid little beer class at UC, and you're allowed to bring beers into it. And I started doing that when I started teaching it a long time ago because the class pre-existed me and it had been a thing. So students just started showing up in my class with beers, and I'm like, what the hell are you doing? This is a class. But then I thought, it's beer class, whatever. I don't care.
Have a pint.
Bring beer.
Yeah.
So I established the one rule that you could bring beer to my class as long as it was not shitty beer. You had to bring good beer because that's part of the point of the class. Mm-hmm. This semester, almost nobody brings beer to the class. It's like the first time in 9 years of teaching it that it is, you might have one student out of 40 that bring a beer or two.
Wow, that's kind of shocking.
It in the past, it's usually been at least a third of the class.
Sure.
Is bringing in at least a couple of beers or so. Some of them are sitting at a table and sharing things and whatever, and which is fine. That is actually part of the spirit of the class. Like they're sharing different things. But yeah, this semester, like they just don't do it. And it's a little bit jarring. I mean, that's fine. I certainly don't encourage them to. I don't encourage them to drink in general. But
if you want to appreciate a beer during beer class, that makes sense. It's not getting drunk in beer class. But the fact that they are showing no interest in even wanting to appreciate a beer during beer class is kind of crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's why they take the class and they participate. And when we do tastings, they enjoy doing the tastings. But yeah, they definitely, as a collection of people, and maybe it's anomalous this semester, but I don't know. There seems to have been, like, what I've seen teaching over the past 4 or 5 years is almost like rapid cycling generational changes. Like from one semester to another, there can be radically different behavior, and like how much they engage or they don't engage, how they drink or don't drink, what they like and what they don't like. And the majority of them, when you ask them, what type of styles they like, over 50% of them, sours are their primary beverage. So although the industry as a whole may be facing dark times, Gen Z is all about you, brother. Yeah, I think we got good times ahead for Urban Artifact for sure. I want to touch on that tradition thing really quickly. And I know this is tangential to everything we're saying, and it's not exactly the beer news, but it's important to understand this stuff because it does impact how people drink, how they consume, how they spend on alcohol. What I think is bad about tradition is that anyone who blindly follows it without understanding why is just as bad and doing just as a disservice to that tradition as those who blindly disregard it without understanding why. I agree with that 100%. And a lot of times what it is and what takes for tradition and how I view it is that it takes a long time, it can take a long time to understand that why and gain an appreciation for the tradition. So just blindly accepting tradition for tradition's sake is dumb. That's what idiots do. But idiots also just blindly disregard tradition in an effort of, ageism or just because it's been done this way or whatever. Newism, I don't fucking know. But just disregarding it or accepting it without understanding it is just stupid. And I just want to clarify that. It's important to be able to break tradition in an intelligent way.
Yeah.
If it needs to be broken, you just need to understand why that tradition existed in the first place. And we see this issue a lot with brewers in the beer industry is, oh, but beer's always been made this way, or it's been this way for 100 years, so we're going to keep doing it that way. Well, why did they do it this way 100 years ago? Why are you still doing it this way now?
Yeah.
Did they do it that way just because that was the only technology and information they had available to them, and they would do it a different way if they knew better, which we do now? Right. Or are they doing it because it tastes better that way? Understanding which is which leads to improvements. So I just wanted to clarify that, because I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, we're going down a philosophical rabbit hole, but I agree completely. I mean, I don't believe in tradition just for the sake of tradition. I'm not, you could probably tell I'm not that traditional of a guy, right? Mm-hmm. But I do think that throwing out traditions entirely because you just don't want to learn how to taste wine, or, you don't want to learn about brown liquors, that's also problematic. I just want to keep my 8-year-old palate, and I want sugar, rather than learning to expand that palate. And why do people like bourbons or scotch or whatever? Mm-hmm. And you can personally like them or not. And I think we both like bourbon, and we both tend to agree that bourbon is just out of control at the moment. Yeah. But nevertheless, I know how to taste it and enjoy it, and I know why.
For what it is.
Right.
Well, the wine thing's interesting that you mentioned that too, because it's part of it is you gotta, at some level, there is just a little bit barrier entry to wine, and learning different grape names and learning what to expect from those flavors, it just takes time, like beer styles. Yeah. But the wine industry does have a problem of classism and gatekeeping by design in order to elevate pricing and keep things elevated. So I get saying fuck that part of it. Right. But the part of it of learning the different grapes and the growing areas and the flavor impacts, that's the fun part. Yeah. Learning about your Appellation and Chateau bullshit Marmont or whatever the fuck it is, that stuff sucks. But learning about the different grape varieties, that's fun. And it can be fun, and it should be. So taking all of these two things that we just mentioned and talked about for the last 12 minutes, putting them together through the lens of the National Beer Wholesaler Association. The CEO of this association has said in a recent speech this week, it is a 5-alarm fire for beer right now. It couldn't be worse, and the beer industry needs to come together. He says, quote, we're at a crossroads due to political upheaval, the food and beverage giants entering the alcohol industry, federal government's review of competition in the brewing industry, terminations without cause, conservative-driven boycotts of Bud Light, Gen Z not caring about beer, and ultimately ending it by saying that beer traditionally has done a really bad job of ignoring half of the consumer market of alcohol being women. And he says all of that needs to change because this coming generation, Gen Z, cares a lot more about the value of the company and the values at least that you pretend to show than tradition and just drinking light beer because that's what you're supposed to drink.
Beer industry's been sexist since the 19th century.
Oh, yeah.
And we explore in the podcast how that changed radically. I mean, what it looked like, what sexism in beer looked like in the 1900s and the 1950s and 1960s. It was different compared to this radical shift that it made in the 1980s, where it was just really grossly misogynistic. It did. Before that, it reflected like a broader social sexism. Yes. It then got really fucking creepy in the 80s, led and spearheaded by Anheuser-Busch. But, and I think that craft to some extent has been trying to shift and change that dynamic. But there is still an inherent sort of, gender divide.
There's an underlying sexism that still exists in craft beer that's a holdover. Because you still have people who grew up in the 80s with that type of beer advertising, feel strongly about it. And by people, I mean usually men, still feel strongly about it. And then when they open their craft breweries, they're making things called like Busty Blonde Ale or some stupid ass shit like that.
Yes.
So they're still carrying it over. Yeah. But yes, craft beer has tried to break through with that. And we need to. Because otherwise, half the fucking consumer market isn't going to do that. More women are going to college now than men. More women are earning more money than men in younger generations. The breadwinners it's flip-flopping.
Yes.
So
more women.
Yes. So if you're not advertising to women and showing values and morals that women also want to see, in addition to men, it can be both. Yeah. Then you're gonna fail. Yeah. I think it's pretty common sense.
Oh, thank God I'm the eye candy that I am, or I'd be living under a fucking bridge.
For some not so cheerier news, Heineken has been put on Brazil's slave labor list. Heineken Brazil is using slave labor.
Good for you, Heineken.
They're using forced labor and slave labor of immigrants to Brazil, usually from Honduras or I didn't write the other country down. Apologies. They're using slave labor to deliver their beer, basically. So the 18 plus hours a day, these people are being forced to drive trucks to deliver beer for little to no pay. So cool. If you don't support slave labor, maybe don't support Heineken, which includes Lagunitas, Heineken, Kaiser is the brand down in Brazil. There's a whole host of others. Do it yourself a favor. Look up what Heineken owns. Stop buying it.
Yeah, and Heineken itself is just shit skunk beer.
This is true. All right, a couple quick dessert stories before we get to the non-alc and the question of the day. The Retail Alcohol Standards Group has released new guidance to prevent underage drinking via alcohol delivery. Can you guess what it is?
What the measure is?
Yeah. What is their recommendation to stop underage people from buying and getting delivered?
Oh my God, are we getting back to this bullshit of let's prevent the post office from delivering craft beer?
No, thankfully. But basically what they said is that young people are going to be able to buy alcohol online no matter what. It's important for the delivery drivers to actually card them.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Like, duh, no shit. All right, non-alc story of the week.
Yeah,
Mike?
but it's not, I mean, that means that you have to be home to sign for everything. So, like, if you're, that is going to impact. I mean, if you're ordering craft beer from somewhere, I mean, I've never been a part of one of those wine clubs or beer clubs.
Sure.
But conceptually, they're a fine thing. You know, if you're getting stuff that you can't get from other parts of the country. There's no children at my house. I mean, not only do I not have any, they're not allowed on my fucking yard. I mean, children are not allowed around my house.
Yeah.
I have like an air gun, but...
we get it. You hate kids.
But I mean, that's a whole pain in the ass if I got to be there to sign for it, or they're going to...
Well, legally, you already have to. So that's the kicker, is that's already the law. So... you can't just drop alcohol. Now a lot of companies do it anyway, but you can't just do that. You can't just do that now. So that's why it's ridiculous that they came out and said the standards are
sign for it, then that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, it's dumb.
Here, 8-year-old.
Mike, you have a quick update on our non-alc story from last week.
Oh yeah, very quick. When we made the reference, or I made the reference last week to the fact that people in Israel needed to drink a lot more liquor because it's violent as hell over there. That was, I think, approximately a day before Israel actually went to war. So
yep, the timing was purely coincidental, and yes. Our heart goes out to everybody who's being affected negatively because it sucks.
Because it's millions of people.
Our other non-alc story, which we don't have time for, but I'm just going to mention, if you haven't seen it, Republican dysfunction, it continues. And that's basically the end of that.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so one more surprise story for you, Mike.
Yeah.
Our producer, Dan, has got us some Eggo liqueur. Some Eggo sipping cream liqueur.
Oh my God, I'm going to need a chaser for this shit.
Brunch in a jar, Appalachian sipping cream.
Oh my God.
Yep, we are in for it here, folks.
As a member of Gen Z, Elon Musk, preempting X, can go fuck himself. And as an Appalachian, these people can go fuck themselves.
This is...
because whatever this is I'm about to drink might make me puke live on camera.
Waffles and syrup cream liqueur. It is 20% alcohol.
Oh, I'm just smelling it right now. Oh my God. I can smell it from here. I haven't put it to my nose, and it's fucking awful.
I could smell fresh melted butter and Aunt Jemima syrup.
It's like a Bailey's fucked Aunt Jemima. Oh my God.
Folks, if you can find it, get it, because it's
Awful.
an experience. So speaking of Eggos, Mike, what is
Oh,
your
I can taste the chemicals. Jesus.
They linger on the palate.
Oh my God. Fuck. Like DuPont makes this shit.
Teflon cream.
God.
Mike, what is your go-to drunk food of choice?
You know, as much as I shit on Cincinnati chili, Cincinnati cheese conies, that's definitely my drunk food of choice. I will eat the shit out of some cheese conies, drunk as hell, at the end of the night.
Oh, and they're great too because they're smaller hot dogs, so you can just pound like 6 of them and real feel good about yourself.
Yeah. I feel great in the morning.
I think that's a great regional choice, and that's probably my weekly go-to if I'm going to have it. My ultimate choice is Oh Betty's chili cheese fries in Athens, Ohio.
Yeah.
I just can't get enough of that. Just home-cut fries, piled high with chili, a shitload of cheese, onions, and jalapenos. Ooh, guaranteed to give me heartburn the next day, but boy, do I love it.
Yeah. I guess kind of the American version of poutine.
It is. It really is. Yeah, that's a good point.
I prefer actual poutine, but...
Well, poutine's great. Let us know what your junk food of choice is. As always, please like, comment, subscribe, share, do all that good stuff. Or, more importantly, go on Patreon, buy us a beer. That's the news.
We love you, bitches.
Cheers.